If you're anything like me, you assumed that miniature paint was made by combining crayons in a boiling vat of Monster Energy drink. Today, we find out how they're actually made in a podcast known as
Trapped Under Plastic, the best podcast to watch when you've caught up with your other podcasts. Well, did those podcasts have Jason Craze from Monument Hobbies in them? I don't think so. Welcome, Jason.
Why, thank you for having me.
Yes.
And yes, they couldn't pay me in all of the luscious hugs that you guys could. So I have a demand, and you guys were the only ones that met it. So thank you very much.
People know about the hugs.
Glad to be here.
Jason.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you.
Yes, we're glad to have you. Yeah, today we're going to talk about Jason and Monument Hobbies and his history in the industry of mini painting. But before we get there, we're going to do a little Preamble Ramble. John, what you got for the Preamble Ramble?
Preamble Ramble. Okay, so first thing I need to do is tell the story from the bathroom that just happened.
What?
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
So per usual, when we get here, I've got to use the restroom. And right when I'm leaving, the door to the restroom opens, and a tall, skinny person off of the corner of my eye enters the bathroom. I assumed it was Scott. So then I make a sound, something like, ah! As a joke.
Oh, that's perfect.
It was not Scott. It was a random guy with his shirt tucked in that was horrified.
And he was just like, I'm sorry.
I stumbled off of I was leaving, he was coming in, I had to turn sideways to not hit him while I'm still making the sound. I just left. I thought the biggest opportunity for me to get out of this cleanly is to just leave.
That's a good policy. Yeah.
You missed the golden opportunity of, as you were walking off, your final words while not making eye contact should have been, well, that was fun.
So yeah, that just that's kind of my life in a nutshell. Some days I feel like I put myself in these situations, but at least I get to talk to you guys about them.
Right. Yeah. You kind of stumbled into a scenario you don't know how to get out of, kind of thing. Yeah, I feel that.
Laugh at your precarious position.
Mm-hmm. I have one other important thing that happened to me.
Not bathroom related?
Not bathroom related, this one.
Damn.
So you gentlemen may or may not know that Spira Mirables recently just announced he was coming out with a very limited run for the Forest Dwarves Army.
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah. It happened during our live stream.
Yeah, during the stream.
Someone was like, they're live. I bought one. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So he released 100. There's only going to be 150 of these armies in the world.
That's
and
awesome.
I bought one.
Did you?
Yeah.
All right.
I jumped on there right away, and I was like, oh, it's probably already sold out because it was like 10 after 5. I'm like, oh, they're probably sold out. And I'm like, oh, they're not sold out. Oh, no. So I sat there and stared at it, and then I did the euros to USD conversion. It's $510 for that army for 68 models.
Yeah. Is that, I don't know, how does that line up?
That's actually pretty good.
Is that in line with GW prices? Not saying the models are comparable, but I'm just curious.
Right. I think it's more, but not a lot more. Because a box of 10 Space Marines is $60 now.
Yeah.
They usually
So the FOMO got me, and so I was like, screw it, I'm going to do it.
Do you have any buyer's remorse?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if you've ever gotten a Spira piece, you know that it's just an experience when it comes in the mail, and the packaging is all purposeful. And he's got stamps on it, and it's all got a unique twine each time. It's a beautiful art card inside.
You said the wax
right.
stamp.
Yeah,
it's signed, and it's this is just a kind of a one-time thing.
Yeah.
I think I'd be more likely to be mad that I had the opportunity I missed out on.
Okay.
And I love his work. His sculpts are just so amazing. And I know some people don't really like him. Vincey V is just not a fan of
not even
work.
The bust ones?
No, he doesn't like.
How about you, Jason? Are you a fan of Lucas Pino?
With all lines, he has more hits than misses, I think is the way to say it.
Yeah,
definitely
100%.
somebody that I look at whenever I'm, out looking for, hey, what's the next really cool one-off piece I want to paint? Definitely on my hit list.
Yeah. That's how I feel about him too. Every model doesn't hit 100% for me, but I end up buying all of them now because I'm I've gone back and looked at different ones that I didn't hit for me a year ago, and now I'm now I got a cool idea for it.
Yeah.
And they're one-time runs. You either get it or you don't, or maybe you pay $300+ on eBay to find one.
Yeah, scalped.
So yeah, I'm like, oh damn. All right, so I ordered them. So I'm gonna have a Wood Dwarfs army. I think I'll probably do it a play as Sylvaneth or something.
Play as Sylvaneth, okay.
Yeah, they're forest dwarves, dude.
They look kind of like fire slayers. They're shirtless dwarves.
Yeah, they could be fire slayers, but I think that army's lame. But maybe it's not lame. Maybe it's not lame if they're forest
They have
dwarves.
magma droths.
Yeah. So what's the over under on you actually painting this army?
I'm definitely painting it for a video, but probably not the whole thing.
Okay.
You know.
No, I need all 68 painted in like 32 minutes, man.
Yeah.
Go for the grabby title.
Yeah.
I could do it in a weekend, but then I'd hate myself that this one of a kind kind of experience I rushed through. And I don't want to do that.
That's fair.
Dip and flick.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
what's the closet of shame, the backlog of purgatory, whatever you want to call it? What is that for you, Jason? Is it empty? Is it
So
full?
part of my contract stated you were not allowed to ask me that question.
Shit, you're right.
I need-
All
I
right,
need
Scott
you
was
to- I
part
need you to
editor.
read the fine print, Scott. Jesus. Yeah. So the Monument Hobbies pile of shame is like a whole building full. We joke about it all the time.
my gosh.
Because as you can imagine, with a whole closet full of nerds working on making products all the time, we all collect stuff. I'm the worst of it, right? Because I'll be like, hey, I think we should do like on the live stream or something, show, hey, here's Procurl painting the new Space Marines. And so we'll buy the Army box. We have like that, whatever the Tyranids versus Space Marine 10th edition one. And I think we painted 2 models out of it. So there's that whole box. I think there's like 14 boxes of Age of Sigmar stuff laying around just because I was like, hey, there's one model in there that I want to paint.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I have like 4 copies of Yandrasta because the wings are bitching. So who knows?
Yeah.
I'm like everything. But yeah, we do have a really horrible thing. And then, we're the distributor in North America for Journeyman and Mindworks minis. So we have an entire room of stock of some of the most amazing models, and that one's hard.
Okay.
That one's super hard. They're not technically ours.
Yeah, that's not
But
part of
that's
your
the
backlog.
problem because I'll walk through there and I'll be like, yeah, I need all of these. So
They have so many good ones. I picked up a couple last year at
Mateo's
Adepticon.
killing it, dude. He is killing it. I'm like, I can't even keep up with the new releases. People are yelling at us like, do you have the new thing he showed off? I'm like, he showed off another one? Stop it.
Well, it's nice that they're one of those companies that I always really enjoyed seeing their stuff, and it was like when they started to come to Adepticon, it was like the only time that it was like we had access to like pick them up with relative ease in North America, and now it's kind of nice that I don't have to feel pressured that if I have to purchase one, I have to purchase at a convention, or if I can't go to a convention, that is a slick way to get them.
Yeah, and it was really cool because a lot of those models were limited to like 100 or 150, and we've got like the last 25 on the planet for some of those, like Oz. If you've ever seen the Oz one.
Yes.
Oh my
Big
God,
Oz
it's
diorama.
so amazing. So when you ask us about our pile of shame, it's never ending. It's like everybody. We're just humans. We buy stuff we did never intend to paint, but it was cool.
It's good to hear that I'm not the only person that has a giant box that you've painted 1 or 2 things out of, and then those boxes just start to pile on each other.
GW does that to you. They release a box that's entirely old, not old models, but models that have already been released, and it has like one bitchin' character per faction in it. And then they like release that singular model like 6 months later, like in a blister pack. So it's like you want that like 1 liter, dude. So you just buy the whole box for that one guy.
I think they plan it that way.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
It's almost like they thought this through.
Yeah.
No, they get us on the FOMO on that one just because it's like, the problem for me, though, is that I'll see something that's like, oh, my God, that Terminator captain is so badass. I don't even play the game, so I don't really care. But for me, it's the model, right? It's like it just speaks to me. I'm like, yes, I want to paint that.
Yeah.
Like the lion. Like I'm painting the lion right now on stream, and it's like when they first came out with it, you couldn't get it, right? Because they did the old, we made 50.
Yeah.
Of this Primarch that and then you couldn't get them, and people were scalping them for like $500 on eBay, and I was like, well, nope, not painting that one.
Yeah.
And because we're not stupid with our model purchases, but then when it finally comes out, I'm all excited. I get it. It sat there for like 6 months, and I've just finally put it together. And I'm like, good God. So you know how it is. You get all excited about it, but then you remember you have another thing you have to do too. So
Yeah. Then new things come out. Yeah, I feel that. All right, Preamble Ramble for me. I played my first game of my narrative Necromunda campaign with my House of Faith with Cawdor. I called my clan Faith Over Flesh, and they're all named after like famous cultists. So like I have a guy named Ervil, like Ervil LeBaron and Verlin and Jedediah and like all these names. I'm having a lot of fun with that.
You have Marshall Applewhite?
I don't have Marshall Applewhite. No, it's mostly like kind of like biblical kind of names like that.
I mean, there's a lot
Jim
more.
Jones.
Yeah, there's no Jim Jones. That'd have been a good one. That
You
would have
need
been.
a Jim Jones.
See, the thing about Necromunda is I can hire other gangers and I can name them new things. I can
You
name
need,
them
to,
Jim
you
Jones.
need to get Jim Jones with like a cup of Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
I gotta believe that a cult, a war band that's only made up of cult leaders is the worst
It's
war
terrible.
band ever because it's all alpha people that are batshit crazy
Yes.
and think that only they talk to God.
Yes.
But everybody else in your group also thinks that only they talk to God.
Yes, they are the one mighty and strong. Every single one of them individually.
Thanks, John. Now I have to buy more models.
Yeah.
It's a problem, you know? And actually part of the way that I'm trying to so I'm a fucking filthy tryhard. I cannot play a game and not try to win.
That's what the games are for.
I know, but I'm trying to. There are people out there that can play games and they just have fun all the time, and I'm like, I don't know how that works. So
Those people cannot be trusted.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it, and one way that I'm figuring it out is, okay, well, I'm not going to make the choices in the game that I would make as a tactician. I'm going to make the choices that Ervil LeBaron would make if he were in the 41st millennia. You know, right? Yeah. So that just makes it easier and fun. But even saying that, I was even playing tactically. I was playing against Dan's subjugators, and Dan's got like lots of long-range guns, and I got a bunch of hobos with fire sticks. You know, and I'm like, I can't just run at you, Dan. Getting shot at in Necromunda is fucking bad. It is like super punishing, and so like I just like came kitted to the teeth with smoke grenades, and so I just smoked my way up. And then just got in his grill and lit him on fire.
In real life, it's the same way. Getting shot at is bad.
Yeah, no, it's and
So I think what we've learned is that we should just all carry a belt full of smoke grenades at all times.
yeah.
That
You
fire
guys are
sticks. Spending
yeah.
all my money.
Yeah.
First it's miniatures. Now I got to go to like the army surplus store.
Let's get some smoke grenades.
Do these work still? Are these grenades live?
We can try it out in the back.
I mean, how weird would that be if you're just like driving in a neighborhood and then there's like a shooting going on and you just chuck a smoke grenade out the window? Like everyone would be so confused.
I know. Yeah.
Bang.
Get some smoke bombs from Target. But it was fun. I had a lot of fun playing. Necromunda's kind of a goofy game, but I'm like really hyped about like the territories that I'm acquiring and like the whole narrative of our Dominion campaign that we're playing. So
cool.
A lot of fun. Looking forward to game 2.
Yeah, characterful stuff like that stuff.
Absolutely.
Just feels like more than any of the other games. It just feels like really deep sunk into the universe and like playing the game that like. These are just like these dirty underhive kind of dudes trying to just make it through these sewers and stuff.
Yeah.
I really dig that. I do think that you should have like a 1-paragraph like synopsis of motivations for each of your characters.
Oh, I can.
Or just or maybe just a couple bullet points of like these are the main attributes in what motivates this person to do what they do as a cult leader, and you can just quickly glance at that before each turn and be like, okay, well, according to my ethos, I will this turn choose to stand up on this crate and preach to the infidels, and then just like trust that God will not allow you to be shot.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You know
Faith
what?
is my shield.
Yes.
I did put my faith in the Emperor at several points, and it did pay off for me. Like my leader, like melee weapons are not a good thing in Necromunda, but my leader is a great sword wielding guy. He has nothing other than the great sword, and so I just ran him down mid, and he chopped 2 dudes in half, and it was like this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, and with every kill that dude gets, he's believing more and more that he really is the chosen one.
I know. That's what I was saying. I was like, clearly, I am the one mighty and strong because I did this insane shit. I'm still alive.
Yeah.
So now he's like more empowered in his fucking like insanity.
You got to create your own little game within the game and have like a D10 or D20 system where you have to roll and either above or below your target attribute, like you said, John. And if your roll's lower, you're just forced to do whatever. Crazy crap you decide.
Yeah.
And if above, then you can kind of be a little bit more strategic. Yeah. That would put that old orc and goblin randomness into your whole army.
Like the
it's
fanatic.
like, okay, I'm going to launch this guy at you and I'm going to roll. And oh, look, I killed myself. Thanks. That's great.
I think if he survives like 2 more battles, you need to hit bash the tribute to St. Catherine where they're like a bunch of people carrying this giant ornate Christian-looking casket.
It's like cherubs that are like floating it along. Yeah.
And then you keep the lid of the casket off, and he arrives to the battle like standing in the casket, and he gets out. Like, come on,
Rip Jedediah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
He's he is the chosen
I
one.
love it. I think that's the dream, though, right? Those games where you feel like you can get that involved and that your characters mean something, as opposed to just useless trash that you pick up off the table and set aside and wish you hadn't spent so much time painting them because they died in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was talking to someone actually in my league about that. I'm always interested in how people enjoy playing their own games. And someone was like, yeah, I would never really get into God tier because there's like no narrative there at all. Like there's nothing about the world. It's just the crunchy good game. Whereas like GW has like all this like baked in thing that you can choose to enjoy. Or you don't have to enjoy it if you don't want to, but it's there if you do want it, and it helps to really immerse yourself in the experience.
That's a huge thing. The emotional attachment to the things we do is super important to us as humans.
Yeah.
And even if there's no real narrative in the game of, say, 40K or Age of Sigmar that you're playing, there is a whole lore-rich world behind it that can exist in your brain as you're moving your dudes around. Your opponent doesn't even have to be involved in that narrative. You can have it in your head and just be like totally introverted. You're rolling dice, blowing stuff up, but this is, Squad Augustus, and in your head they were part of this book and this scene, and you're making it all up as you go. So that stuff works. And God Tier is a great game. I love God Tier, but it doesn't have an emotional attachment. It's just a fun game.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about what we painted in the last 2 weeks. Johnny, want to kick us off here?
Well, it's a little spoiler to all the goody peepees out there that we're actually recording this episode a week early than when we usually do.
Oh, are you hedging right now?
Yeah, I'm hedging real hard, real hard.
I can tell.
So this.
Slacker.
So it's only been a week since our last video. So I painted a lot for last video.
You did.
Last episode.
I had nothing last time.
This week was a heavy week of editing for the video that just dropped as of today. It would be a week ago before, about painting the dog, which I showed about last week. I did scrape a bunch of hours in this week on painting the High Marshal, for the High Marshal that's on horse for the unit. He's not done yet, but he's most of the way done. Scott, I just sent you the picture, but I didn't bring him because I'm an idiot, so I can show him to Jason on my phone so he can take a look at where we're at with him. But
nice.
But
I like the tarnished steel armor.
Yeah,
really good.
Yeah. I really wanted to add. There's maybe some more room to build some depth and color in the armor. But I wanted it to just kind of be steel. I didn't want there to be a bunch of different colors all over the place on his armor. But I'm working on a lot of the saturation and some of the brightest points of the whole scene for the unit to be moving towards the center and up. And he's kind of the top part of the whole scene. So he's got a rich saturated red cloak, whereas in the other parts of the scene, the red is much more desaturated. You're not pulled to it with your eye where you will be here. Yeah. And then the flag that's kind of off the back of the horse saddle as well is going to have some more saturation. But had some fun painting the sword blade, kind of fiddling with the gold on the hilt of the sword, where I didn't want it overwhelmingly orangish yellow, but to still read as a warm gold instead of a cool gold. I usually associate a cool gold more with a bad guy, so to feel that bit of a good guy scene to him. But there's still more work to be done on him, but I would say he's about 85% done. And then he's got this giant shield, so you can kind of see that he's got the straps on his shield.
Oh yeah.
And in the after party today, I'm going to talk about my hatred for sub-assemblies, but it's a big shield, and it's like painting that separate. I'm like, I just wish I could have it on, but like it closes off his whole like left side to paint him.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was like a good chunk of time spent on painting his armor. So he's got all armor down the other side of his leg. He's got that kind of thigh plate over there, the whole big side of his steel armor I'd put hours and hours into. I kind of just like dry fitted, put that shield on to see where it would sit. It covers fucking all. There's like all of it. I'm just like, well, I guess I'm done worrying about any buildup of highlights and shadows in there, because it looks better than it's ever going to need to, because you can't see any of it.
Sub-assemblies, yay.
Yeah.
I love the like the yellow tarnishing you got going on, and just the NMM in general. Like on the shoulder, you can see it, and the sword blade, you can see it. You can see a little bit of gold reflection from the hilt into the silver of the blade. So just like a lot of really cool. Like I feel like this is something that I'm missing in my NMM when I do it. It's very clinical. It's very like gray, white, blue. There's no like oranges and yellows and purples and like other environmental tones that really, when you do it subtly, really enliven non-metallic metal like in a huge way.
And the thing that I've learned about that, and I don't consider myself great at it, is that the cool thing is you get to where it reads right, and then you can really faintly add that to your taste. So it's not something that you actively have to worry about in the painting process. It's like, okay, now I've got this all done. Now I'm like, okay, what would bounce off of this? Now that I see the scene or I see the character mostly done, or even if the base isn't painted, what colors are on the base? Or just thinking about the environment, right? In the what is he standing around, or what color is the light from above and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you saw the little bit of yellow on the top of the blade, because that was one part I was like, oh, yeah, it should bounce just there, a little bit of that yellow on there. So, yeah, that's what I painted.
Very cool. Jason, what'd you paint in the last 2 weeks-ish?
Oh, jeez.
I brought the thing over that you painted on stream.
We started that yesterday.
Yeah.
The little texture trainer thing. So I just started going Andorian Star Trek. I've been watching a lot of Star Trek, so blue skin, white hair is my goal with her. So just kind of started sketching there. But I've been doing the Lionel Johnson, the 40K one. I've done the 30K one. I love the character, so I've been painting that, built it. Been doing a lot of sketching working on all the armor. He's got a lot going on. So it was one of those, do I do this in sub-assemblies? I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, we just build and paint it. So been working on him. And then, of course, the mechs for our upcoming battle, Scott. So worked a little bit on those.
Okay.
Got the final stuff. That's always fun for me, because it's like when you want to just do something super quick, and spend a couple hours finishing something, and I never dry brush, and so I actually get to spend some time dry brushing, and some simpler techniques that can work really well on those Catalyst Game Labs mech models, because they're PVC, so the plastic's not perfect, they have their blemishes, and you can't really clean them up well because it's that rubbery, PVC, so it pills up. You can't really clean lines, so you just go in and you go for it. You just don't even try to mess with them, right? You just kind of put details where you can, and
there's so many edges on those things.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all edges.
And so I don't even take time to really go in and like edge detail much, but I do like wish.com non-metallic metal on the guns and things like that. So it's kind of like it's a really good palette cleanser, because you can get a neat miniature that's fun to play on the table. But I have, we did a series of streams where for 2 weeks I had to paint my entire battalion for this. So 47 mechs that I painted in 2 weeks, and got my color scheme done and all that. And that's what the other mechs are. So, I got all of those done same way. So it's fun. Yeah,
it's good to have a mixture of like hobby projects, some that are easy to accomplish and fast, and some that take longer. So how long do you think you're going to end up spending painting Lionel Johnson?
Oh God, that's one that I'm really invested in. So I think at the end of the day, that's always a tough question, because I do most of my painting live on our stream, and as you know, the output per hour is much reduced. Right. I would say that you're painting at about 50% capacity when you're painting live, if even that. Okay. And so the total hours that I get are in the hundreds when I do that kind of focus on a model.
Okay, so like maybe if you were painting it by yourself, it'd be like a 50-hour paint job.
Probably like 40, a 50 to 80-hour paint job, depending.
Okay.
I spend a lot of that time, as most of us do, with like the stuff John's talking about with the non-metallic metal. That's the one of the 47 in 2 weeks. So that's the kind of level I was doing that at. So just really good, clean tabletop. But you get to that point where, especially when you're doing a lot of non-metallic metal and reflective surface painting, you get to would be the end for a normal model, and that's really where a lot of the brain time comes in, is looking at how you can bring I call it the part of the model you don't see, right? Because this model's in an environment, we don't get this big diorama. So what are all the things outside, the color of the lighting in the space, the things that would be reflective, like the purples and greens and stuff that show up in metal. So how do you bring the outside world in? And I'll spend a lot of time not painting, finishing a model. Okay. Right, because you spend more time thinking about, it might look good, and you try a little bit of a bluish tint to some of the metal, and then you'll be like, and then of course you got to repaint the whole damn sword, and let's try yellow.
Yeah. So like, are you pretty, like, a lot of people are afraid to like just try things out and throw caution to the wind, but do you have a little bit of that fear in you, or if
Zero.
Right, you'll just like fuck it, send it. Let's try something. If it doesn't work, then I know
4
I
or
can
5
get back
years,
to where
dude,
it
nothing
was.
scares me, and that's one of the things I try to instill in people that watch us paint is like, the first thing is we don't make like life support systems. It's just resin or plastic and paint. If you learn to paint thin and you're not glomming it on, man, there's nothing you can't do.
Right.
And just keep repaint. That's the whole deal with those texture trainers, right? Just paint it again, paint it after that, reprime it, paint it again. Use it as a tool to just kind of get good. And every model I look at that way, regardless if it's a big expensive bust, or something that you're like, oh my God, this is a Joaquin Palacios sculpt. I'm like, I don't care, just start sketching on it, whatever. And a lot of people laugh at me because I don't know what colors my models are going to be when I start. I don't have a plan. I never paint with a plan.
No,
Something like
no
the
plan
Lion.
at all. No direction at all.
Not at all. No.
Okay.
That's a little bit of a lie because like something like the Lion, or like I just recently painted the Marvel Crisis Protocol, the new Immortal Hulk or whatever it's called, or I forget what he's called, but the big jumping one. He's a great Hulk, and we're using that for some stuff on our website. And so as I'm painting him, of course Hulk's green. I'm not gonna go in and say what could I do different with Hulk. And I painted him like what you would expect from Hulk. So there was a plan there because it's a known quantity. And Lionel Johnson a little bit, but even with Lion, I was asking chat. I was like, so what color do we want to do his armor? Do we want to do like black armor, green cloak? Do we want to do green armor, red cloak? And they threw out some ideas, and my brain's churning away. And so then I just kind of jump in and let it be. I'm kind of hippy dippy in that sense that I feel like models turn into what they want to be as I paint them.
Okay. Yeah, no.
I might lay down a color that was unexpected and go, ooh.
Yeah. We discussed this last week actually. Is like how much preparation do you do before sitting down to like hobby on something? And we all had kind of like different answers and stuff.
0.
I have like some idea. Like I know like maybe the two main colors that I want to incorporate on the model. I don't know where they're going. I'll figure that out along the way. But I have like that amount of direction.
I think that's a big thing, a big hurdle for a lot of, especially new painters, is you think you need to know it all before you go.
Yeah, definitely.
And
well, it's a comfort and confidence thing, right?
Yes, and that you think that once you're good enough, then you will know where to go every time before you begin, and that's just not how it works. And that's part of the fun. It's better to embrace that and than to think of it as a fault of yours. It's just like, let's just go for the ride.
I legit come in here, loaded up 48 rando paints, and said whatever I put in this bag is what I'm starting to paint that model with when we sit down. I had no idea.
Okay.
And then that's why yesterday I was like purple skin, green skin, blue skin, because I didn't bring any traditional skin tones with me. I was like, they were all on another table. I guess I just didn't bring anything. So
Yeah, that's part of the process. Scott, did you paint anything?
I did. I painted. So I'm experimenting with Duncan Rhodes Too Thin Coats paints on my stream, and I'm painting these 3 Cawdor guys over here. I'm also doing some experiments with Vallejo Express paint again, and so I'll hand one of them over to you.
Yeah, they look really good. Turning out great.
I think I ended the stream yesterday messing with Duncan Rhodes TMM paint, which to me is I don't know. It's like it's squarely in the middle in terms of all the other TMM paints that I use. Got a little bit of sparkle to it. You can see some of the pigmentation. Has pretty decent coverage over black paint. I needed 2 coats on like the smaller details and 3 coats on like the flatter, large blade areas. And that's like pretty in line with like the acrylic paint that I use for metallic paints, and so that was pretty good. I really enjoyed using the green and the khaki on like their waistcoats. That worked great for me. And the ochre color for like the ropes and stuff. I'm not done with the models yet, but so far very usable paint range. Not many complaints.
Yeah, I found a similar thing with their metallics that they are, if you've painted with most hobby paint metallics, they won't be foreign to you. They're a little bit too thick and globby for my taste, which is one of the reasons why I end up, this is not because of our guests, one of the reasons I go back to Monument metallics almost every time is because they're just so much smoother out of the bottle, especially with metallics. That gunkiness you can obscure details and stuff.
I definitely see what you're saying about the Duncan Rowe, about the Too Thin Coats paints being a little bit thick out of the bottle. Also, annoyingly, the pitch of his nozzle is perfect for the ball bearing to get in there to totally obscure the nozzle from getting paint out. So you need to hold it at a certain angle to get paint out, and it's like, can we fix that? Can it be more narrow so the ball doesn't totally? I guess it's impossible to avoid. I've never experienced that with another paint before. Really? Where when I go upside down fully to dispense paint, the ball bearing totally blocks the nozzle. Have you experienced this before in paint?
And all the regular dropper body. That's one of the reasons
I'm
why
just
our
lucky
bottle
then.
design was the way it was, is because we could control the fact that the agitator doesn't really clog it up.
Okay, yeah, that was the first for me, and I was kind of like, "What's going on here?" And then someone in the chat was like, "That's happening," and I was like, "Oh, you're totally right."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I usually put the bottle at an angle as I'm putting it out. You don't put it straight up and down.
Yeah, it really becomes a problem the less paint you have, because the agitator has nothing to float in to keep it from getting there before you get your dropout. So, the more fluid a paint is, the more the agitator rushes to the front. The less paint you have in the bottle, the more the agitator rushes to the front. So it can
Maybe that's why I don't struggle with it, because I use a lot of thicker paint, and so it gets suspended in that liquid better.
Yeah, most liquid acrylics go with a thicker medium so that they can suspend more pigment in it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, but it's a fine paint range. It's working out for me. But which we were discussing this yesterday, is that a lot of paint ranges are strangely operate very similarly, and maybe it's because they come from the same place.
Yeah, they'll come from very similar factories, if not the same factory.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I painted. All right, let's get chatting on the main topic here, which is all about Monument Hobbies and Jason Craze here. Can you just get us kicked off here with maybe like a 5-minute summary of like your hobby, professional, and also personal like kind of life leading up to Monument? Did you work in the field, in the industry? Is Monument your first time? Were you a hobbyist originally? Like, where did it all start for you? Give us like the short story.
The before times.
The before times.
Yeah, so I got into the hobby really young. When I was like 8 or 9 years old, one of the kids in my neighborhood was getting into D&D, and so he didn't have any friends he was on a football team at his junior high, and so he didn't have anybody back then that was interested in nerd stuff. And so he collated all these guys in the neighborhood, the other 3 kids that were younger than he was, and forced us to play D&D. And I had a blast. It was right up my alley, right? And I think a lot of the other kids really liked it too, but we kind of all drifted away from it. But it introduced me to the idea of these little, pewter miniatures, and I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Who was making the models back then?
Back then it would have been
Ralph
Partha. I always forget the other one. I did. It was not Citadel at the time, although I think they existed. But we in America didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to get them. But that was Ralph Partha and, oh my God, why can't I remember it? It'll come to me. But yeah, so there were only a couple of manufacturers. There was a bookstore close to my grandmother's house that we would walk to every now and then, and they had all of the like D&D modules. This is back when they were like the small brown books and things like that. And the guy had miniatures in a case. And this is, we're talking, 78, 79, 80. And I remember there was a cleric model, a Ralph Partha cleric. These are all one-piece, not multi-piece models. And he had painted it nice, had like an oil wash on it. This guy was doing it, and he was the guy that was working there. And so I just talked to him as a little kid, asking questions like, "Oh my God, how'd you do that? I want to do that." And I was off and running.
Is that what you sounded like when you were a little kid?
That's exactly what.
Hi, I'm Jason Craze.
My name is Jason, and I would like to paint your models. So that was me. It's kind of like on Tuesdays nowadays, but anyway.
Only Tuesdays.
Yeah, only Tuesdays, because I got to keep the guys on their toes. No, so I really fell in love with that whole idea, and it led into like scale model building, which is really where I detoured off, because the miniature world back then was kind of limited. BattleTech was around. Ralph Partha was doing the BattleTech miniatures, and so that was when I got introduced to BattleTech. Starfleet Battles were kind of my first tabletop war games, because I don't include D&D in that. And so I knew that tabletop wargaming was fun, and there was a lot of stuff I was interested in there. But as a kid with no budget, I didn't make enough in my allowance to really buy a miniature every week and things like that. So it became on the back burner. When I had an opportunity, I would, but scale modeling was something that I was very interested in. I would save my allowance up to buy a Panther tank and do that. And, we talked a little bit about Shepard Payne. And so early on in my early teens, I was able to sit down at a couple of classes that Shepard Payne did. And those were tremendous. I'm dealing with, what we would call graybeards, a bunch of old dudes and me, and my voice went down maybe a half an octave from them, but it was still pretty much, hey, I'd like to learn how to paint models. And I didn't know anything. I had no pedigree. I had no prior. I didn't have an airbrush. I think my parents got me like it was like a tester's compressed air plastic trigger thing. It was horrible. And I tried to paint models with inks because that was the only thing that would go through that damn thing, and they were horrible. Anyway, so I went all through that age of no information, just trying stuff as a kid because you have no fear. You got this $25 model, which back then was a lot of money, and you just ruined it because you didn't know what you're doing. But my grandmother and my family stuck with me, and they were like, yeah, if that's what you want, for your birthday, we'll get you another model. And I built it, and I got good with glue, and you just kind of do it. So my whole life, pretty much, it led up to this. And then miniatures would come in, and as we know them, would come in and out as I would go to stores where they had them, and I'd be like, oh, that'd be rad to paint. So it was always more of a rule of cool thing for me. And then it wasn't until the mid-90s that I got back into tabletop wargaming, more BattleTech at that point in time. Comic store that I was going to started carrying Warhammer, so I bought like the Imperial Fists old Battle Force box, the one that they were all yellow, and they were on like a tiered deal that had like a piece of green felt on it on the cover, their old big battle boxes, all metal, the old crappy rhinos. And started painting that and had a blast. And then was living on the East Coast. At one point in time, I went down to Games Day, Maryland, and they have a booth. Well, they used to have a booth at Games Day that was like, apply here to work for Games Workshop. And just on a whim, I had a career in electronics, and but I just on a whim went up there and I said, hey, this would be fun. And I knew, and I had taken my resume, and I gave them my resume, and she immediately said, you'll never get hired here. We don't do that. Okay. You're a higher level exec type position, and we only hire from within. And I said, well, keep my name on file, if you ever have anything that you guys, think of, to give me a call. And 2 or 3 years later, I moved out to California, and on the drive out to California, got the call, and they were like, hey, we have this new position we're doing. And so I worked for Games Workshop from 2004 to 2008.
Doing primarily what?
I was the business manager for the West Coast. So they were regionalized at that point, the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, West, and maybe the South. I think 5 regions. And each of those regions had an office. Ours was in Westminster, California, where the bunker was, in the LA bunker, and the office there. And I just ran all the business stuff. I ran hiring and firing. I ran all of the accounts receivables and payables. All the crappy, uninteresting stuff that a business has to do.
Well, it was kind of interesting because you were telling it to me, and it sounded like you were almost like a repo man. Like these stores would order stuff from you.
Yeah. So one of the biggest hurdles when I came on was that they were in arrears. They had a lot of money dated over 120 days, and for accounts receivable, that's bad. And it was at that age it was really weird. If you talk to people that own independent retailers, like the Forge and places like that, those guys would get calls it's like sales people just beating your door down from GW every week because the new release schedule was really hot back then. GW was still riding high off of the Lord of the Rings release. That was their big thing that turned them into what they are today, and so the money was flowing. They were making tons of models. It was a great time for them, but the sales staff was oppressive. You just get on the phone on Mondays. Internally, it was oppressive. You had to drive. We'd whip cracking those guys. Like, hey, how much? Have you met your quota? Have you sold enough? Has everybody taken a sleeve of this Dark Angels thing? And blah, 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 whatever. And so those guys were having to buy everything, even if they didn't need it. Hey, we have to buy a sleeve of this Dark Eldar, Flayer guy that you can only have one of in your army. And I have nobody that plays Dark Eldar in my entire store. But now you got it on the wall. And so it was a rough time. And so people weren't paying their bills. Right. The accounting system sent you a bill you couldn't read.
Yeah.
So the big problem was like on the paperwork, I had to figure out a way to make bills readable. So we spent a lot of manual time internally. And so that was my job for the first 6 months I was there, but we turned it around. We got all that receivables for the West Coast down to a very manageable amount. And all the stores were happier because they didn't have bill collectors calling them all the time. And a lot of times if you were that far dated, you weren't able to get the new releases, which is a problem. You would have to go buy through distribution, and your margins were really low. So yeah, from a business standpoint, it was interesting for me because I got to learn that side of the business of the gaming world, we'll call it, the miniatures world, and I had no exposure to that. I didn't, I never did anything retail. And so for me, it was a good learning experience. And then, of course, the whole world of GW, just the internal philosophy and the way they ran. It was a great company. It was a lot of fun. The people there were great. So that gave me an exposure to the world that made me say that at one point in time, I'd really like to dive into the business of miniatures. Unfortunately, GW didn't work out long term because they showed a bunch of down quarters of profitability, and so they retreated the U.S. business into just Glen Burnie, Maryland, shut down the regional offices, got rid of a bunch of people. I was offered a job in Glen Burnie, but I had just moved to California and bought a house, and I was like, they couldn't help me in their financial situation pay the closing costs to sell my new house. And so I was like, well, I can't go to Glen Burnie, Maryland if I have to foot the bill of losing money selling my house. And this was the 2007, 2008, things were not great for selling homes anyway.
Yeah, that's
So it was a bad situation. And I had gone out there and looked at places in Annapolis and around Glen Burnie and was really excited to have the opportunity because I really loved working for Games Workshop and wish I could have stayed on board. But it just wasn't in the cards. And so I went back to my normal life doing motorcycles and electronics. And then the whole time, kind of in the back of my head, obviously I was still playing games. I got big into War Machine at that point in time. Because it was the Screw GW, I'm gonna play another game, and so I was playing War Machine. But the War Machine crowd in Southern California was despicable, so that didn't last very long.
I mean, it sounded like they were despicable because of the kinds of people that the company wanted to attract. Like their mottos and everything were kind of pointing toward that.
It's really weird because for Privateer Press, I have a lot of good friends that worked at Privateer Press still to this day that have gone on to other companies and such. Obviously, Jordan, our studio painter, worked at Privateer Press. That's how I met him.
Yeah,
I love the Privateer Press guys. I don't think it was an outward expression from Privateer Press. I think that it was just because it had a very competitive edge to the game. And so it got those people that were really kick you in the dick win at all cost gamers.
Yeah. Yes.
And so for me at the time, I was just a casual gamer. I still am. I'm like you. I build armies to win.
Yeah.
But I don't play very often.
Yeah.
So I can't have very high expectations for my own play style because I'm like I play one game a year. So losing is kind of par for the course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I stayed in it and I kept painting miniatures. It was a hobby that I had. People would make fun of me in just like, especially in the motorcycle world. We'd sit around a campfire on a motorcycle run, late at night in the mountains, and people would be like, Jason, you paint any more of your dollies? And, and thinking they were outing me. And by the end of the time, I've got everybody interested in all these things I do,
Joke's on you, bitches!
Yeah, it's all these big, tough, tattooed dudes. And they're like, oh, really? What? My son would love that. I'd have people messaging going, my son wants to get into Dungeons and Dragons. Do you know anything about this? It's really great. There's nerds everywhere, right? You just have to open your mouth to find them. Yeah. And so it was always there, but it was kind of it retreated in the background more or less from time to time. And then, when I moved down to Arizona in 2014, I was looking for what my next move was. I sold my metal shop that I was doing all my motorcycle stuff out of. I had long left the electronics biz and was just kind of in that limbo of, hey, what's next?
When did the Slow Fuse Twitch stream thing start? Was this when Monument happened? I know it was beforehand, right?
That was 2012, actually. It was right at the end of Justin TV. And so when Justin TV turned into Twitch, I was doing video games. I was part of a video game group that was like doing like small regional tournaments for like oh, good God! Why they did just? I just lost it. I want to say Lord of the Rings, but the League of Legends, and so they were doing League of Legends and some other Smite and some of those MOBA type games, and I fell into those and was really loving them and was pretty good. And so as we would do our practice rounds and things for tournaments, I was always the jokester and making fun. And everybody, you need to stream. I didn't know what that was, and so we started streaming video games, and I did video games until 2015.
Okay, so 3 years of that.
Yeah, and I got really tired of it because I was playing competitive PvP games, and like if you're focused on one or two games, the problem is that the matchmaking starts going down or starts being tougher to deal with as you get fewer players in your category and things like that. And so it was just like I was going for like my platinum level placements in League of Legends, and wood level players were getting into my team on my placements.
Yeah.
And so it was like insta loss. I couldn't carry because I didn't play a carry position at that point. And so,
do you have any thoughts about Dota 2 players? Or are you not that kind of mobile player?
Earth was the toxic community. Dota, I always had a lot of fun with.
Fucking love Heroes of New Earth, dude.
Heroes was a great game.
Did you see the video where I made a character from?
Oh, did you?
So my favorite character in Han, that was my shit for like 15 years.
The community was horrible.
Oh, absolutely, they were the worst. But like we were also like. We prided ourselves because the game was like the most competitive MOBA, or like the most hardcore MOBA, like none of this like kid shit. But yeah, I made a model from that game, Fade, and then made a video about it because I love Han.
Very cool. Yeah, Han was a lot of fun, and it was one of those games where I wished I could find a better group of people to play it. I could never get our gaming clan or group to get into it because they were all against all of the toxicity. And I was like, well, let's be a beacon of hope inside that toxic, because I love the game. But they played Dota for a while, but of course League of Legends is where we all settled on because they had better queuing system. It was just better from the amount of people that were playing, but it wasn't the better game at the time. This was all pre the graphic update and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
But anyway, I got sick of playing PvP. I did World of Tanks. I was part of the North American World of Tanks sponsored group of streamers, and it just got to the point where I was not having fun and my audience could see it. I always tell the story. I got a message one day from a viewer on Twitch Messenger who said, hey, I just want to drop you a line. I've been a follower of yours since the beginning. I really loved your streams and all. I've stuck with you through all the games, but lately you are not having fun, and you can see it. And so this guy was very honest and said he wouldn't be attending my streams anymore, and that really hit me.
Dude, yeah.
And
I can imagine how you would feel. Have you ever had something like that, John, when someone was like, I watched you for a certain reason, and you don't do that anymore, and so I'm going to stop, and I want you to know that. Has anyone ever like been that personal with you?
Yeah, I've had a couple of those, and some of it is where it's like, oh, you're not how you used to be. And I'm like, can you give me more details? Because I don't really know how I'm not. I feel the same.
I feel like the same job.
I feel like whatever. And sometimes I think people want to do that to just justify this wanting to be a contrarian. Right,
or how they're feeling. Like, are they feeling a certain way? I don't know how to enumerate it.
Maybe
so I'm gonna say this.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe the content they like has changed, and that's not you anymore.
Yeah. Or maybe I have. I've had to have some of those introspective moments too. It's just like, oh, what really makes me happier? And that's kind of when we did our New Year's resolutions episode where we started the season 5 on, was that I just wanted to make sure that I'm holding true to that North Star of what excites me, what's fun to me. The rest of the details aren't as important as that. So, but yes, that's kind of a catalyst for that. I've had a couple of those, and I'm like, okay, I feel you. I see where you're coming from here.
Sure.
It was big. I don't remember your name, but you're the reason Monument Hobbies exists. Because it changed my whole mind. I said, I have to find a way to have fun streaming again, and my fun came through painting.
Okay, and so you're like, I'm gonna axe the gaming. Now I'm gonna do painting on stream, and then that led into Monument Hobbies and creating your first products that then started selling. So what was the first product that you sold? Like the reason why you started up the LLC or whatever it was?
So we decided early on that the products I was representing and painting with myself, the brands of paint, the brushes and things like that we would open up an online store so that people that found us and found the hobby could have a place to go support us that wasn't giving half the money to Twitch through subs, and that was giving them something in return. I've always had a problem of devaluing my content, feeling like, you should get something more than just listen to this old man tell you how to paint. And so I was like, so let's sell you brushes and stuff. And I just sold the stuff. I sold Winsor Newton. I sold Vallejo. I sold all the products that I would use. And
so you stocked it?
Yeah, I stocked it. We had an online store, and we stocked in our house. I got a lot of the distributors on board, some of the bigger distributors, by saying, hey, I have a different business model. I don't compete directly with online stores because I don't advertise that way. I have a built-in crowd of people that are consumers that buy from me, and it was just our viewers. And we had a handful of 1,000 viewers that were very supportive. Thank God for those guys and gals, because they really wanted to see us grow. And what better way than to get the paint you were going to buy anyway?
Yeah, I've often thought about this, and I kind of want to ask you a question about this. Like, obviously, we use Amazon affiliates and we sell things there, and it's very easy. But year after year, they're constantly reducing the percentage takeaway you get for certain categories and stuff. And I was like, what if I just stocked the top 10 things I use? My Tamiya plastic thin cement, like or whatever it may be, the airbrush that I like. Was it pretty difficult to become to talk with distribution and get that stuff on hand, or was that simple?
For me, it wasn't.
Okay.
And I don't have a good explanation of why. I think it was just I came from it from a purely business aspect, and I pitched them. I said, hey, I know that you have a rule about no non-brick and mortar places. I do not have a brick and mortar location, but let me tell you about my business model.
Okay.
And then I presented them my business model. So, and I would always say that, yeah, I mean, some other streamers have done the same thing, and to various levels of success. I think it really comes down to how focused you are on showing them good business that doesn't impact and intrude on any of their other business, because in that world, if you start, we didn't discount anything.
Okay.
And a lot of people will fight to the bottom by just saying, hey, I do my paints at 30% off. It's like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Sell it at what its value is, and realize that you're only killing yourself. And so that's what we did. We sold it at pretty much retail. We've always done the deal where if you buy a bunch of paints, you get a little bit of a discount for building your own set kind of thing. And we did it back then too. But then it wound up being like, I'm a product developer at heart and a problem solver. And so I would have, these brushes don't do exactly what I want. I don't like a big flat, fat flame shaped belly to my brush, because when painting miniature, having that nice straight taper allows me to use the entirety of the brush down an edge, or in what we do with three-dimensional objects. And so I was like, well, I want to design a brush that has more of a straight taper. So I went out and found a brush manufacturer and found somebody that would work with this teeny weeny company in the U.S. to actually design something with us and it cost us a lot. But we sold those. That was really the first product we did was our Sable brushes.
The red-handled, slow-fuse brushes?
They were long, black-handled because I couldn't get them to budge on the standard handle they made, so it was a longer, like...
Oh, like an artist kind of?
Oh,
wow,
yeah. It wasn't like the super big, like, paint, from 5 feet away, but they were like 6-7 inch long handles, that were pretty absurd.
I still have some of those in my paint drawer.
Really?
And it's great. It's great because I open up that drawer and everything is this long, and then I look and there's like 4 of them sticking out that are like 2 inches longer.
Gloss black handles.
Yep. And I'm like, and it's almost like a fun, like nostalgic feeling. Like, oh, I remember when I first got these, and I still use them.
They're
and it's
great
like,
brushes.
yeah, they still hold up. And there's some
brushes.
of them have been like a lot of times in their brushes, they're graduated to different tasks. The more use they've
Dry
gotten.
brush, basing, glue.
Yeah, yeah. I'll even use my go-to. Because I remember I had it was either a 00 or just a 0 from that original line. And eventually those, they lose their tips. But when it's got so few bristles, but it's kind of naturally now just kind of a little bit splayed because I beat the hell out of it. It's the perfect thing for just stippling just tiny dots of like a dark mahogany color for that, corrosion.
Yeah.
And it's like I still go to that one. And I'm like, oh man, look at this long ass brush handle in here. It's like I'm painting with the giant oversized pencils.
Yeah.
We did that. We did like 500 sets of those as a limited run was our expectation. It was not a plan that Jen and I had to do tons. I think we did like 500 sets. We got them in. They were pre-packaged for us. They had the Slow Fuse Gaming back card with the bomb snail on it, and they sold out in like 2 days. Mm-hmm. And we were like, oh Jesus!
Yeah. So was that unexpected?
Yeah.
Okay. And
so
like
I thought my MOQ to have to buy 500 sets is that I had 400 sets of paintbrushes. I was never buying paintbrushes again as a painter. I was in the money, right?
Yeah, you're like
100
lifetime supply.
Yeah, I had to sell like 200 to pay for 500, kind of a thing, right?
Yeah,
and so I was like hoping we could get to that so that the other ones were I could give them away on stream and stuff. So I had already factored in the fact that these might just be, hey, when we reach X amount of subs, we'll give away a set of brushes, kind of thing. And they sold out. And so then we didn't have that part of, oh, well, now we have nothing to give away. We don't have this whole plan, but it was good. So we made more. And then we finally, migrated to better brush manufacturers. As our volume went up, it gave us better conversational pieces to people that wouldn't talk to us originally. So we got into like German factories. And some people took a chance on us and kept our design, but got us the right handle length and all that kind of stuff. So we had more, I don't really want to call it bargaining power, but we could talk more along the lines
more
of
legitimacy.
Development.
Yeah. And so is this when you kind of started to realize, so at this point, was Jen still a teacher or was she full-time with you?
Jen had moved to, she had quit teaching before we met. We met in 2015. We just had our 9th anniversary. And
congratulations.
And she had moved on from teaching by the time we met, and she was working for a company that made distance learning software that would work for teachers that were dealing with children that couldn't act correct in the classroom or just charter schools and things like that. So she was still in that world.
Okay.
And then during that time, as we were growing the business, she moved and had become like the assistant principal at a charter school. So it was definitely still in education, but was coming home and wrapping up the orders I didn't have time to do during the day. And so she started doing more of that. And she started seeing that. Good on her because she was seeing what I couldn't. I'm the kind of guy that's like, I'll get to it. I can do this. I'll kill myself doing it, but I'm going to do it. And she was like, I can help.
Yeah.
And so,
That's amazing.
And then as we started going down the line of paints, she realized that we weren't going to be able to see that success if I didn't have more help, and we couldn't afford to hire anybody. So, she was doing a lot of work.
So it was brushes, and then it was paint. I want to know.
Brushes, and then we did the go bag.
Okay.
The go bag and the brush soap. So Jen came up with the formulation for our brush goop, and we started selling that, and that's been a huge hit.
I have that brush goop. I got a little puck over there that I use all the time.
Yeah,
so at what point did you move into a building? Like when it like kind of became official? Like when did that happen?
2019 was the first time we did business outside of our house.
Square footage on that thing? What was it?
750.
Okay, so it's a little bit smaller. Yeah.
Tiny, and we were so scared.
And it was just you and Jen, no employees?
No employees.
Okay.
2019, no employees. Moved into our first office.
This was paint, brushes, go bag.
Yeah, and we were distributing models.
Whose models?
The Canadian guys.
Oh yes.
The Canadian guys.
I don't like giving them advertising. So.
Yes.
But yeah, so we were distributing models too. So we had a lot of stock, and it was just ran out of space super quick, and we were like all excited about having an office. Just didn't work very well. It was like climbing over gin. We had a refrigerator in there because of all the ingredients for soap. You have to refrigerate it. So you have to have this mini kitchen for soap manufacturing, and then you got no room for anything else. And we had a stream that we did there. It was insane. It was literally the size of this room we're in right now, but imagine running our whole company out of just this room. It was insane. Yeah. But we've always done a lot with very little, and that's been the key to our success because we don't like overspending. We like doing it when you're comfortable, which you can't always do. But yeah, when we embarked on the paint, that was the big one. That was where it was like, hey, it was the poop or get off the pot moment, because all the other products were bags were a little crazy because you had to order them in big quantities. They take up a lot of space. They come with rats. We had the first shipment of bags came into our house. They dropped off pallets in my driveway. I'm breaking down pallets in the driveway. We're putting all the boxes. There was go bags in every room of our house except for the master bedroom. And there was a wharf rat that had gotten in at the shipping docks in L.A., and that wharf rat lived in our house for a few months until we trapped it.
That's a wharf rat. Sounds like a fucking alien species.
It's just the rats that live around the docks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just assume it's like the Princess Bride rats.
It was like a big fluffy brown and white, rat that looked like something you'd buy at the pet store, but he was like chewing up our internet line.
Oh my gosh!
A total ass. So we caught him in one of those.
Did you name him? Did you name him before he finally met his demise?
No, I called him a bunch of flavorful names as I took that sticky trap and threw it in the dumpster, though.
I'd assume that you just name him Jerry, so you can just be like Newman every time you'd see his
Newman.
Jerry.
It was funny. It's like I was wondering one day like why our subwoofer didn't work on the TV system that we had. It was like sound bar with a little subwoofer, and he had nested in the subwoofer, so he chewed up all the subwoofer things.
His apartment.
Took the back of it out. Took the back of it out, and I'm like, well, no wonder it doesn't work. It's like dumping out like all the things he'd eaten and stolen from you were in the subwoofer.
Oh my gosh!
Well,
yeah, little home, yeah.
R.I.P. Jerry.
So getting out of the house was cool.
Yeah.
Very cool to not have to do that anymore.
And then you went from that one 750 square foot office, and then you went to the one you're in now.
We got the office adjacent to that and blew the wall out and put a door in, so we got an additional like 800. So we were like at 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
And that was really good. That was when we brought production of all the paint to the United States. And so we were doing all that in-house, but again, we were only doing it 750 square feet. It was a nightmare.
So that's actually significant. I don't want to gloss over that detail you just shared. You literally manufacture Monument Hobbies paints in America.
Yeah, we don't grind. Our pigment is ground in Canada. The freeze-thaw testing and balancing for the base is all done in Canada. We do all the final mixing, bottling, labeling, and all of that. Well, and the color development is all done in our office and everything.
Yeah, because previous companies that John and I have been affiliated with have kind of led us to believe that the entire industry makes paint in the same place. And I think for the most part that could be true. It's hard to know because no one really talks about stuff like that. But so then you told me you did that, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know that like people did that. I'm like, yeah, you have like a whole like bottling machine and like all that stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean most of the companies will do their own bottling. A lot of people will get like the paint in big pails and then they do the bottling because the style of bottle that sets you apart or whatever. A lot of people will do that. But yeah, I start from base pigment and do our color mixes. We send it off to the lab to make sure that those pigments suspend properly. Not every pigment reacts the way you want it to and can be a pro-acryl paint. So, but we got that down to a science so that we don't really hassle with that anymore. But, I do all the mad scientist color mixing at our end now and send that off to the lab. They do a great job of getting all that squared away. We're hoping through the course of this year, one of our big plans is to bring everything to where everything other than pigment grinding happens at our place.
That's awesome. All right, I want to back up a little bit. I just want to kind of jump into that and talk about that for a second. So who's the first employee you hired? What was their job? Were they a contractor? Were they full-time? Were they part-time? What was the deal?
So I guess technically we had a friend of mine, Blake, who had gotten into a motorcycle accident and was unable. He was a motorcycle technician for Harley Davidson, and he couldn't work. So we brought him in first, but unfortunately his injuries didn't allow him to sit and do the motion of like capping and bottling paint all day long. So he was only there for a short time. He was technically our first employee, though, but it was very short, and it was unfortunate he didn't work out. So then our real first employee was September in 2020. We hired Ruben, and Ruben was hired on to do paint manufacturing. And so because I was doing it, Jen and I were doing it. There were times where when it would come stream time, the stream was turn the camera around and watch Jason cap bold pyro red and talk to Chad while I'm like, zzz, zzz, the whole time. And so great content. And
it's interesting. I like
some bottle paint, but we had to, and we didn't want to miss the stream because we really love the community, and the community wound up loving it. Yeah. They were like, holy hell, this is how this happens? And I was like, yeah, here's the filling machine, here's the capping machine. And
so cool.
So we did that, but we hated doing it that way. And so Ruben came in and really took over doing that, and that was kind of the first push for us to say, hey, we'd never been able to match demand. More people wanted the paint than we could make. There were a lot of problems in the past with that. We cured that, brought production to the U.S. We're able to finally make enough paint to get demand met. We always were able to have paint in stock or 24, 48 hours out, from when we would have that color back. And we were just learning the business of being a paint manufacturer. We were like, hey, here are the things we got to pay attention to. Number one, we got to have enough raw material to mix so we can make these colors. We got to have bottles. Back then our bottles came from China, and that was a real hassle because of the logistics of, getting enough in at the right time. Our initial bottles came pre-labeled, so I would have to order. At the time, we had maybe, let's call it 48 colors. I don't remember what the real number was. But we had a handful of colors, and we would have to order in quantity bottles for white and black and all that because we didn't have space for labeling set up, And so then we were like, well, what we really need to do is we need to just have generic bottles because I don't know that I'm going to sell that much golden yellow versus titanium white, but I run out of titanium white bottles and then I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So that seems like brainless stuff. It's like, duh. But at the time, it's like, we're just doing with what we can. So, we immediately started doing those things in a very short span of time and got automatic labeling setup going and changed our bottle manufacturer to one here in the States. And so we were making some heavy decisions that were costly at the time, but well worth it,
Yeah. Okay. And so how many employees do you have nowadays?
21.
And they're all full-time?
Full-time. Well, we have one part-timer, but she's really full-time.
Okay.
She's like 4 days a week, and in the span of 4 days, does 8 days worth of work. She's great.
Okay.
She doesn't want to work on Fridays. So.
Right. So it's working out, like what you're doing is right. And I asked this question to you yesterday, but I want to ask it again. It's like, how often do you feel like, what the fuck am I doing? How did I get here? And how often do you feel like this is intentional? It's working as I planned, You feel like you've discovered lightning in a bottle, and you're trying to hold it, and you're like, oh my god, what do I do with this thing? Or is this all like, yep?
It feels more like that, right? It's more the WTF, I think, because we haven't ever really been able to say what is normal for Monument Hobbies because we've grown at such a pace year over year with the support of the community and the creation of new products. Guys like you guys, loving the products and putting it out there only helps extend our family of consumers and community members. And so it's really just been, hey, what decisions do we have to do to keep up in the right way? Don't sacrifice quality. Don't overpromise. Keep our QC where it needs to be, keep our customer service where it needs to be, but also be able to bring on new customers. And so our whole business is really built around that. It's like, hey, like in our going to retail, we opened up our first retailer in 2020, and we had a handful by the end of that year, call it five or six retailers, and they're great. They jumped on, they bought into the line, they believed in us. Thank God they did. We didn't know what we were doing, but we started to piss people off because the line of retailers that had lined up wanting to sell the line was way bigger than we knew we could make paint for, right? Because we know, okay, well, everybody gets, X amount of paints in a rack, every single color to open up. And what we were seeing is that within 2 weeks, they'd sell out of nearly everything on the rack because there was such a demand for the paint. And we were like, well, we can't fill another rack in a month, because we didn't have that much throughput. So we were not setting people up. We were saying, hey, we just can't set you up right now. I don't feel good about selling you something if I can't guarantee that when your rack is empty, I can refill it. And right now I don't feel comfortable guaranteeing you that I can refill it. And so we were very slow and purposeful in the way that we went to retail so that we didn't overpromise. We didn't want empty racks gathering dust because that's lost profit. And, square footage in a store is valuable to the store owner like you wouldn't believe. We wanted our square footage that we take up to be worthwhile. And so we really focused on that. And it's a good thing that we did. I think that's really attributable to a lot of our growth. Our retailers respect us for that. They know when they call us, they get the real deal. Same with regular, just any customer off the street. We're not going to lie to you. We're like, hey, we underestimated the sales of Noosh or our fluorescents. Right now we're having a hard time keeping in stock, and now we should be better at that, but sometimes we miss.
Yeah.
We just don't know. I think we're a little bit more pessimistic than we should be with that kind of stuff, and so a lot of it is that oh my God, what do we do? What's going on?
Yeah, but it sounds like you're taking a nice calculated approach to it and trying to keep people happy.
Oh yeah, we're very purposeful in all the things that we do. It's just sometimes you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's a very infant market. It's a very infantile niche in the consumer culture, which is a very specific product range, just in anything in miniatures. It's not been around that long to the way we know it today. And even if we look back at your last, now we're going on between 3 and 4 years, what your company was and what it is today, because you and I have known each other and worked together in some capacity since about the beginning.
Yeah.
And it still feels like, to me, it's the same Monument Hobbies. But when I look at like how many employees you have now, how you're able to reach, how whenever I go to a different like retail store, it's a coin flip's chance, that they carry your stuff. Yeah. And it's so wild because a lot of this, just kind of like content creation for us on YouTube, it's not that old, right? And so to say there's an industry standard of 50 years or 100 years to go on, to lean on for decision making, for business decisions, for direction, for growth, is kind of untrue.
Yeah.
And you can either be scared by that, or you can say that just means that there's an opportunity, and as long as the people are buying the products and interested in the quality of work we do, we just have to go with our gut and hold true to our mission statement, in which I've seen that with you. And sometimes I'm surprised about all these new things you come out with, that I'm like, I'm like mentally in my head, I'm like, Jason, how are you able to do all of this stuff?
Honestly, if I can be totally honest with you, it seems a little unbelievable at times. Mm-hmm. Like when you made Noosh, I was like, that's probably just some things that have already existed, but just put together in different quantities. If I can be totally honest with you, because like that's what like people in our industry, because it is so young and new and unexplored, that's just what they would do.
Yeah.
They'd put a certain amount of retarder, a certain amount of like fluid matte medium in there, and they would slap a label on it and they'd call it something like Noosh.
Yeah.
But like you actually developed something new.
Yeah, it came from a product that had failed. It had a different purpose initially, and when
you tried to make that, or someone else tried to make?
No, that someone else tried to make.
Okay.
And so when we were sitting down, we had a conversation. We were like, oh, and then it got the brain going. Like, but what if it did this and this and this? I think it could be used for like a weathering technique we have in our industry if we changed it. But it had a good, solid, fundamental base, right? It's like when we make the go bag. It's like there's a tremendous amount of carry cases for all sorts of stuff in the world, but they don't ever quite get you where you need it for the hobby. Mm-hmm. So you're taking shortcuts. You're having to add your own stuff. You're having to witches brew it on your workstation, and that's not fun. For some people, that's the hobby. That's great. Mm-hmm. But for other people, they just want it to work. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we look at stuff and we're like, how can we, sometimes it's a repurposing, of a tool or something like that. But with Noosh, it was like, hey, what can we do chemically to stop having it act like this and do this and retain its qualities? We don't want it high gloss, we want to change it around. And so that's what we did. And we went in and kind of recalculated the chemical side of it to say, without losing too much of its open time, how can we make it work for what we're going to do? And it took a while, like every good thing, it's worth the time to spend in it. But when we came out the other end, it's like, ooh, this is something new.
Yeah.
This is something that we didn't ever think we'd see, as an acrylic that it really gives you the open time to work with. Like, I'm not gonna say like an oil, because people that have been working with oils know that you can work on them for days. It's not gonna turn an acrylic into that. If you need that, you go get an oil. But for the speedy stuff that we want to do for quick weathering, it's fantastic. Okay. And so again, it's that problem solving. It's like, I know as a painter, there's certain things I don't do because they're either too involved. They take too much of my time. Oils being one of them. I don't want to oil wash everything and then set all of that aside and have to do something else. That's not how we run our stream. That's not how I paint. I want it to happen now. I want instant gratification. So yeah, so that was good.
So people that don't know what Noosh is, can you explain what is the product? What is its purpose?
We call it a acrylic weathering medium, and it's meant to do like an oil wash. You mix in any color you want into it, any other acrylic paint into it to get the color you want. So your whole library of colors becomes infinitely more resourceful for you at that point. Mix it up and you slather it on your model, and then you wipe it off with a soft makeup sponge is what we recommend. But you can use a Q-tip, brushes, whatever you want, and move it around. But it's so much more too, right? It's been a thing that people have been using to teach themselves wet blending, because it can be used as a drying retarder. It is not specifically a retarder like that because it has such a long open time, and it's meant to move paint off of the model is what it's built for. So rather than a retarder that's just meant to give that suspension more flexibility, it's not meant to be removed. It's still stained, has a higher tint strength and things like that. So this one's meant to take paint away. So you got to be careful because you might slide all the pigment to a place you don't want it. But yeah, it's great. It's we have people using it in all sorts of ways. It's great for like that kind of a lot of people call it two-brush blending or spit blending. You put a little dollop of paint on the model and then you just feather it out. Man, it just makes that happen instantaneously. So for shading and highlighting, it's perfect. So it's a great creative product, and that's kind of what we like doing. I'm a guy that doesn't believe you need the same color in a base paint, an airbrush paint, a layering paint, and a dry brush paint, and all that. I'm like, buy one color, or if you fall in love with that color, and then use it for everything. So we're really focused on making different mediums and creating new ways to have additives to that favorite color of yours to make it do whatever you want.
Okay.
And so that's kind of our philosophy with paint manufacturing. But
I want you to address like a certain way that I think I'm thinking, and I think certain people are thinking right now. So like, I bet there are people out there that have an entrepreneurial spirit and they have ideas for products they want to make, and they hear about Monument Hobbies and like the success you're having, and it's just like it seems like you got the Midas touch. It seems like whatever you do is just like killing it. But really, there's a lot of hard work and intentionality that's going on in behind that scenes. And I look at you. You're an older gentleman. You got wisdom. You have industry experience.
Old man.
You're an old man. But really, you create the opportunities for yourself, right? So it's like, what would you say to that entrepreneurial person who has ideas but is lacking execution or like the direction on like where to go? It's like, what's the first step? If I have a thing I want to make, or like, what can you tell that person as advice to get started?
That's great. Before I answer that, though, I want to say thank you to Jon for noticing, and I love hearing that you see a similar company now as when we started, because that's very hard for us to keep sight of sometimes. As you grow, one of the easiest things to lose sight of is what got you here. How did you treat your customers back then? There's the road is littered with companies that forgot how to be nice and how to be real. And so we try to keep that at the forefront of what we do. The entrepreneurial thing, I think, is one that I think that it changes individual to individual, because what is your ultimate goal? Our ultimate goal is to provide valuable products for hobbyists that make hobbying fun, keep hobbying fun. My whole shtick is spend less time on the palette, more time on the model, because that's where we create. So a lot of our products are bent towards that. But, how do you find those successes? I think is really just stay true to your vision. We spoke a little bit about it last night, is keep your energy. These are the hardest things, though, right? Because if you make something and you put it out there and people say negative things about it, it's easy to get deflated, but you have to find that energy. If you believe in it and you have a vehicle to deliver it, your energy will help its success. It'll never hinder it. You can have a product that's just bad, and you'll realize very quickly that, we made a mistake. We didn't factor in this. We thought we'd make this widget, but nobody really wants that widget. Yeah, just the finding your success, keeping that energy up is going to be key. And that is the toughest thing. It's tough for me, if I have an idea and now as we get bigger, that idea can find legs or pushback internally.
Okay.
And so that's a big thing. And as a solo entrepreneur, as somebody that's coming up with a product vision, you may not have that. But I would say reach out to your friend group, especially in the hobby, the local store that you go to. Use the resources of the community around you to help you get a kind of pre-knowledge of the success of this thing. Because if you can find 5-10 people that are interested in it, that use it, that love it, then you can make something of that.
Right, yeah.
Just be sure that you monitor your goal through the course of developing and releasing so that you're always adjusting what your expectations are. Yeah. If you think you're going to be a millionaire and run a Kickstarter and do this thing and it's going to be all gravy after that, you haven't done all the math, right? You need to look at what does that mean? How long does that fulfill? How long does it take you to do that and get good at it? And I just see a lot of people getting burnt out because their expectations, they feel like they missed them. But stick to it, and that's the key. I kind of don't have that limiter, which is probably a genetic problem, right? I'm like that mutant. I don't have that limiter that says you should not do this. I'm always like, if I think it'll work, it'll work. And so I have that energy, and they don't all work, but a lot of them do to some extent. And I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. We get pushed back on the paint line. Like, why doesn't your paint work like everybody else's paint? I go, because then it would be everybody else's paint, and everybody else already makes that paint. So we made it a little different. And we stick to it, and we're energetic about it, and it's great.
Yeah, what you said something that struck me as it's advice that I share to people when they want to do YouTube as well. Is like, if you have an idea for a thing, like, you have to stay true to that thing. Like, there are a bazillion companies that just carbon copy products and they make stuff and they find some measure of success, but the ideas you have and the way you want a hobby and the way you want to interact with the world is unique and special. And like that's what makes your product different from everyone else and sets you apart. So it's like, you gotta have faith in your ideas that they're gonna be valuable and worthwhile. And sometimes they're not. Like, they're a different version of value to people, but you gotta kind of keep trying.
So what I'm hearing is, if any of the goody peepees out there have amazing ideas in the miniature sphere, you just send them to Jason. He'll tell you if they're garbage, and then you throw them away, or he'll tell you they're great, and then he'll steal them and make the product.
I'm not sure I heard that, but
that's what I heard.
Okay.
That reminds me, I've got a great product idea, Jason. I need to run by you.
It sucks.
And we'll do a Kickstarter.
And you're also not a dwarf.
We'll do a Kickstarter. We'll make $17 bazillion, and then we'll retire. Does that sound like a great plan? Because my idea will blow the roof off of everything.
17 bazillion is a lot.
I know.
That's a hard one to pass up. Like, I think, yes, retiring to a beach of a 17 bazillion Kickstarter dollars might work, but no.
Can I come? I don't want to be a part of it, but can I come to the island though?
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, right, cool. You see how that's working for some people. We may not want to do that.
It's not that kind of island. It's not that kind of island.
Oh God. That's so funny.
I think that, you raise like, we get contacts all the time with people. Some are inventors that we've got that will, preface everything with an NDA and say, hey, I've got this great product idea. And we typically don't get involved in those things because as a product development firm, basically, we can't sign NDAs with people because we may have something similar that we've already thought of that's on the shelf that we're trying to develop. So we got to be careful with that. But we do have a lot of people that say, hey, have you ever thought about this? I've got an idea. And I'm always very open to that. Whether it's something that I think is in my space, I will always be honest and say, hey, that's not something we're interested in, but if you like to bounce ideas off of me, I might be able to give you some pointers on what I think I've seen in that, that realm. And we do that. It doesn't happen a ton that people are willing to go down that line because I think a lot of people are scared that you'll steal it and run with it and all that. But that's not, we're not, the thing with us, and like, to your point, we don't really look like we don't feel like we have to sell everything, right? There are companies out there that want to have 5 million SKUs and be everything you want. You want a piece of sandpaper or this little, cute, their own branded Q-tips and all that stuff. And I'm like, man, come on. No, I can get 5 million Q-tips on Amazon for $4. I am not making Q-tips, right?
I don't know, those Tamiya Q-tips.
Hey, they're not bad, actually. They're actually good.
I use the hard pointed ones.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And those are to me.
But you can get those in bulk too.
Yeah, from other manufacturers. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that. It's just we don't view that as adding value. That just adds hassle for us because we know what it takes to stock and maintain all of that. And I don't I don't need more material handlers. I want more creative people designing new things and coming up with new solutions. There's not always a new solution for everything. We beat our heads against the wall sometimes and say, what are we going to do? Like, people ask, what happens when you make the last color? and people don't really talk about that with paint companies a whole lot, because you see, like paint companies that have like 500 SKUs of colors. But when you break it down, they don't. They have 150 and then repeats, that are so close in tint, tone, or shade that you'd never really need both of those. But I do understand the flexibility and the kind of efficiency that comes with having, triads and all that stuff. It makes sense in our industry, but, it's just not our mentality. We're kind of like, hey, we provide paint that mixes fantastic, you do that. But what happens when you make the last color? Because we're approaching that. We're approaching the point where it's like the main line is done. Maybe this year, maybe 2024, early 2025, we'll be like, well, okay. There you go, Prochrome is it, and here's all the colors. So we've thought about, like we may extend into like a military line. We have a lot of scale modelers that love our paints, but we don't make German gray.
Right. Yeah.
And you have to mix for a lot of those colors, the RAL colors, and all of the military documented colors from all the decades long. There's billions of colors there. So we thought about doing a military line that would be kind of its own standalone thing. We've got all these ideas, but do we really want to do it? And that's what Carl's the game studio, right? Is like, we're like, well, what we could do is we could start making games.
So that's the future possibly of Monument, which is a question I wanted to ask. And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's always it's tough. It's a cloudy crystal ball, right? Because we never know today what ideas we'll have tomorrow, right? And that sounds very
yeah, put that on a fucking poster, dude.
Deflective, but that is right.
Cursive letter and clouds and whatnot.
Yeah, with the kitty holding from the clothesline.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So I never limit us on that, but we do want to work on things. So our first game launches in March or April of this year. It's in production right now. It's not a miniatures game. We're just trying to have fun and open a game studio. But it's a different sub company, so it's Hobby Nerd Studios, and it gives us the flexibility to do whatever we want. We'll test the waters there and do marketing and see what works, and again, just throw stuff against the wall, see what sticks. But that's fun. And then our products, like our extending the go bag range, extending the tools that we have that we use, and the colors and things like that. We've still got a long road to go. Even when we make the last color, then we can sit down and figure out how to. What normal is, I think, because part of the reason we can't get to what normal is because we do keep releasing stuff and it keeps being successful. So,
all right, Jason, we've had a lot of these easy softball questions, and I'm quite frankly, I'm sick of it.
Yeah, me too.
So let's get to some hard hitting questions. Because I feel like Diane Sawyer right now. So, Jason, you don't use a wet palette.
Okay, thank you. Yes, let's chastise him.
Okay. Why don't you use a wet palette, and why are you a terrible person because of this?
Why do you choose to make your life more difficult?
So, yes, I am a horrible person.
Yeah, okay.
That's just part of
he
the
said
deal.
it.
That's
He
just
said
part
it.
Of, that's part of the deal. I'm on record now.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to go bad for me. I've always, I've been painting for so long. So part of it is old dog, no new tricks. But I have used wet palettes. I just, about a month or two ago, I used a wet palette to paint an entire miniature on stream to show people that I can and I know what they are and I'm not afraid of it.
Sure.
I've used them more than most people have. It's just that they reduce my fun in the hobby tremendously because of the maintaining of the palette itself. And that's worse, of course, in dry climates like Arizona, where the paper curls on you the whole time. You can put pennies on the corner, but it still wrinkles up. It's still a pain in the butt. So the maintenance of it is not great. It is not a great science. This is something that sparks a lot of controversy because in the world of art, so if we just go in the world of art at large, not just miniature painting, but we look at the world of art at large, there's a reason why there aren't very many companies that make wet palettes, because they're garbage technology. They don't work except for paste watercolors, gouache, and paste acrylics. That's what they're made for. They're made for things that aren't naturally a base liquid paint because there's no way to control the amount of water that moves through the membrane. You'd like, in a perfect world, you'd like for it to replace only the water that evaporates out of the material on top. Yeah. But when you have a liquid that is mostly water already, then you wind up in a problem because it can never keep up with the type of evaporation, and it gets worse as you spread your paint out over a larger surface because the more surface area the paint touches, the quicker the evaporation, the more evaporation, and that paper can't adjust to letting the right amount of water through. Now, saying all of that, for the work that we do, it can be a great way to keep things like custom mixes that you're doing wet long enough to where you don't have to continually pull both paints together. And that's the old dog side of me. I've been doing that for so long and controlling the paint on my palette on a dry, I use a piece of glass, that it really is just the way I paint. I'm so efficient at it that having a pile of blue and a pile of khaki and mixing them together to get my non-metallic steel done and drawing more or less, because every time I go to the model, I want a little more khaki, a little more blue, so that mix in the middle, you know, it's my dot, and the third dot is my mix, and I keep drawing it down, and I just get that natural progression through my gradient the same way you do on a wet palette, and I don't feel any different. I don't feel like the wet palette doesn't do me any good. It over dilutes my paint most of the time because as a streamer, I'm talking more than painting, and so the wet palette gets away from you, so that may be a big part of it. But like I said, I painted a miniature with it, and people were asking me the whole time, and I'm like, it's a hassle. It's a hassle to have to put more water in it. It's a hassle to every day come in and the paper's all dried up and I got to go do that in the sink and squeegee the paper and put it all back together. I was like, come on, throw it in the garbage, use a dry palette, don't put as much paint on your palette.
I can't imagine using a dry palette in fucking Arizona. Like, that just sounds like the worst painting experience of my life.
Again,
like,
it comes down,
you
and I teach people all the time, is the big problem that we have, and a lot of it is, and I don't want to make this sound like it's accusatory, but a lot of people when they paint are just really willy-nilly. They spread that paint out really far and thin, and so the wet palette helps save you if you paint that way, but not by much, because by spreading the paint out, you now have opened up more evaporation. That paint dries out quicker. I keep my paint in tight dots, and I draw a little leg of paint out and mix it into the color I want, get the dilution the way I want, but the original dot stays exactly the way it came out of the bottle, so I always have the exact paint to start from all the time. As soon as you put paint on a wet palette, it is no longer the paint that came out of the bottle. It's instantly diluted. And so you can't go back to the original paint. So you're saying, and what a large portion of that is that in our industry, a lot of people, goes back to what I said, a lot of people use heavier weight mediums to carry more pigment in suspension. Mm-hmm. For those of you who don't know, I mean, we're not a solution. It's not like salt water. Paint is pigment that is just held in suspension, and so gravity pulls the pigment down. That's why we have to shake our paints. So it never really truly dilutes like a dye, right? Mm-hmm. It never becomes part of it to where it's just blue water now. And so as that pigment is in suspension, a heavier weight medium will hold pigment in suspension longer and more. So you can put more actual weight of pigment in there. It won't separate as quick. One of the powers of Pro-Acryl is that we have a lightweight medium that holds more pigment than most heavy paints out there. Mm-hmm. So we have the same or more pigment than all of the other brands out there, but our paint feels thinner. Right, I hate saying that word thin. It's lighter weight, because it's not diluted. It still has great opacity to it, and so we did that so that you didn't have to spend time on the palette. You get a paint that goes on 3D models without covering details, right, with just a damp brush. You shouldn't have to add anything to it. So with a heavier weight paint, if you take that heavier weight paint, just put it on a model, it starts feeling gloopy. It shows brush strokes, so you need to dilute it a little bit so that it feels thin enough and lightweight so that it moves across three-dimensional surfaces the way we need it. For canvas, that's the way it does. That's why I use paste paint. It's thick, it shows brush strokes, but on a canvas, you already have a textured surface. You don't care. Yeah. For us, we care about that smoothness. Mm-hmm. And so we made a paint that's smooth right out of the bottle, so you don't have to mess with all that. So that's part of it too. Yeah, you know. Yeah. But wet palettes are fine. Our paint works great on a wet palette. You just have to make sure you don't over wet it because we're already a lighter weight medium. We don't need all of that addition like heavier weight paints do to get the exact same, if not better, results. And so, yeah, we fight that a lot. But like I said, I use it in my show. You know, I did that kind of, here, take this, and use it on stream and show everybody. You know, we can do it.
Yeah, I just want to say there's a lot of people out there that are probably hard palette users that are feeling really empowered right now. And let me just tell you, you shouldn't feel empowered.
You should.
You're wrong.
You should.
I agree with nothing that he is saying right now, but it's not worth going through this bullshit on the podcast. Maybe we should go through it.
Down with Weddy.
Anything that hard palette can do, I can do better. Let me just say. No, I was kidding. I feel like I'm able to.
Tools are a really unique thing. This is a whole big, broader conversation because the tool you use is right if it gets you the results you're looking for.
Sure, absolutely.
And I can walk
at the end of the day, that's
say,
important.
What the hell are you doing? And you're like, this. And you show me a miniature, I go, keep on keeping on.
Sure.
Because whatever you're doing, it's working and it looks great. And if it makes you more confident, dude, use it.
Absolutely.
I will never tell people what they can and can't use in art. It's chaos.
I will.
You do whatever's fun.
I think it's important to note that I think wet palette is a prime example of this, but for all of our tools, or most of our tools in the hobby, they are not light switches. They are not just on or off. Either you use a wet palette and it works how it works, or it's off and you don't use it. I found over the years the small details, the minutia, the understanding all the the different aspects of a wet palette and how it works, I feel like I've gotten better at understanding and like tweaking how I use a wet palette to work the way I need it to work.
Yeah.
When I first started, it was just kind of like put the water in the sponge, put the thing on, and go for it.
Yeah.
And then inevitably, within 30 minutes, it was the curling on the edges has started, and I'm now in a race against time. Can I use this paint that's on there before the creeping of the palette paper then like dries it all
I
out?
see people like spray their spritz water on the paper.
No.
And so now the top of the paper is saturated with water, and I'm
Please.
like, good God,
I'm
don't do that.
dying.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can. And if you get used
Yeah.
to painting that way, and you paint in 15 glaze layers for everything you do, great. You're going to
Yes.
have more desaturated color. There's science behind that. There's the way physics works, and there's certain rules that will not be broken.
Yeah.
But by and large, I think, yeah, do it, use it. It's great. I just don't like to.
Also, the idea that a wet palette means that you get to use paint that you've mixed for tomorrow or even in 2 or 3 hours is fallacy. And maybe that was something we've either told ourselves or we heard through the grapevine that this is what the wet palette does. I'm here to tell you it's not that. You shouldn't do that. Even if the paint is there from yesterday, you open your lid and there's paint there. That paint is not the paint you know, right?
Yeah, it's
that is an imposter paint. Don't trust it. Don't use it because all that chemistry is now changed drastically overnight. Also, the paper itself, like the more that I've just freed myself up of like, I'm just throwing this away every time. I'm throwing it away every time I sit down for a new session. This idea of a reusable paint membrane, I'm sorry, Red Grass Games. the fucking thing is just like it's
so
ridiculous.
cheap. It's so accessible. Just get a new piece of paper.
Yeah, it's
100%.
The process is designing a product that people think that they want, that it sounds great. In a perfect world, it would be amazing, but the actual execution of the product is just not there.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it's like saying, you know what? We have invented reusable toilet paper. So all you got to do is use your toilet paper and then go take it in your laundry room, throw it in the wash, clean out your toilet paper, and then you can use it again. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a good idea.
Wait, you don't do this?
You just got shit all over everywhere. This is what's happened, right?
Wait a minute.
It's the same kind of thing.
I got to rethink my whole life.
You don't do that?
He just uses washcloths.
Light bulb.
People do reuse diapers for babies. Like
We started that when my daughter was born.
My sisters, when I was growing up, I had to
sister does
wash
that.
their diapers. I had to change my sister's diapers and then put them in the hamper. These poopy diapers. You had to scrape it. Oh,
Yeah, yes.
Horrible.
I mean, it's
Scraping.
You can absolutely
yeah.
do it.
I don't like that image.
yeah,
Oh,
scrape
yeah.
the solids.
Got little young Jason. Guys, over here, I'm scraping the poop out. It's like, oh God, no.
Yeah,
I'm
dude,
shivering.
you can't easily
This is
get
why I'm so driven, so I never have to touch poopy diapers again in my entire life.
You ever tried to scrape peanut butter off of a piece of bread?
No.
It's so bad.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but we did cloth diapers. I can tell you how to put a cloth diaper on a baby. That's for sure.
Okay, well,
Plastic overpants.
So what I'm hearing, Jason, is that we need to put our brains together to try to invent some kind of cooled piece of glass. It's kind of like a mini fridge, but it's just a piece of glass
That sweats a little bit.
that it doesn't even need to sweat. I think something to do with the it being cold will keep some level of consistent temperature and moisture that doesn't upset the paint, but still prevents it from getting that skin on top.
That's just that
kind of thing.
micro condensation, like on a cold piece of tile in a room temperature environment, will have a little bit of condensation form on it. So if you can do that over time, it kind of does the same, non-scientific amount of water. But
Just saying, there's our second $bazillion idea today.
okay, cool, yeah. we're
There are
rich.
these things called Peltier plates where you can heat a side of it and then the other side is cooled. So if you had like a pallet that had like a trough in it and you put warm water in the trough and it heat the underside of the Peltier plate, the
It's
top
like
side would be cold.
geothermal type stuff.
Yeah, as long as you kept the water somewhat warm. That'd be a maintenance thing though. So maybe
That's the thing. I mean, the reality is number one, use less paint, and don't be afraid to open the same bottle of paint and put more paint out as you need it.
And
That's
keep it
the
in a little
traditional
puddle,
thing to
right?
do. That's your biggest solution. Like John said, don't have an expectation beyond what the palette can really achieve. be very careful putting it in your refrigerator overnight, because cold, dry air actually produces more evaporation. Evaporation is not a heat-generated thing. It's dryness, as the entropy tries to balance the moisture in the air versus the moisture on the substrate. So, you wind up with all sorts of problems and that people say, well, I put it in my refrigerator and it dried out. And I'm like, well, did you put it in the part where you put your lettuce crisper? I mean, there's reasons why refrigerators have like a humidity one and a dry part, and so evaporation happens in there too, and you got to be careful. So again, it's just weighing those expectations. The wet pallet's a great tool. Like I said, if you're a person like me that mixes a lot, I'd probably be smarter to use one for those days where I'm painting a model and I'm not using any base colors. I'm always doing a hybrid color out of two other ones. The wet pallet's really strong for that. That's the old dog kicking in. I'm like, no, I will fight through it. And I never really have problems. I mean, the way that I do my stuff now, I only paint with the moisture on my brush. I never add water to anything. I'll add medium if I'm diluting. So it's really just the dampness on my brush. And when you have painted that way for so long, I was taught that, good God, when I was in my early teens. And so I've done that for everything, whether I'm painting canvas or painting models and all that stuff. And it just becomes the tool you use, and you never look back.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You need one of those things that, like, your dog water dish, and then you got the big jug of water that gogoes on top, so then it always stays at the certain water level. You just need like that in a wet palette, so you don't have to worry about keep adding more water as it evaporates. Yes. You have your big jug of water.
$8 bajillion idea.
I have so many ideas.
Yes, a reservoir for your wet palette.
Yes, reservoir.
That also can be used as your water cup. This is one of my ideas for a wet palette. I agree with you. There's a potential there. I don't know what it looks like. But John, thank you for bringing that up. I wanted to chastise Jason for not using wet palettes. But Jason, we're coming to the end of our conversation here. Where can people find Monument Hobbies? Where can they find your Twitch stream? Shout yourself out.
Oh, yeah. MonumentHobbies.com. Really simple for the web store. And then we have a store locator link on there for all the FLGSs that carry our stuff across the globe. We have hundreds and hundreds of stores around the world, distribution to all four corners of the globe, so you can find our stuff hopefully closer to you, so you don't have to ship it over from the U.S., but you always can. And then our Twitch is twitch.tv monument_hobbies. And so, yeah, we stream 5 days a week, 2 to 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Jordan and I and Jen and the crew, we've got various people that come and sit with us and have fun. Tell fart jokes, paint models. Great time.
Okay.
Yes.
We like fart jokes.
We'll have the link to Monument Hobbies website down in the show notes and the video description. So if you haven't visited there before, we'll get you there. And
thank you.
I do like that page of finding your local store. I like every couple of months I go back and check it, because I do like check the Minnesota stores or like Western Wisconsin stores, because I'm always like, oh, there's another one or whatever. And
we've been on a rampage lately. We got so many new stores opening up. It's exciting.
It's great. It's great to see. I do it for my own selfish reasons, because then when I go into local stores and I can see that my custom paint set is there, and then I yell at the store owner. Yell at the store owner for not selling. I'm like, you got to push those numbers, push those John sets. Every person that comes in.
Door. I need them on a string, so it hits you right in that face as you walk through the door.
Yes. Yeah, right. I want my face to be the first thing that people see when they walk in the game store. I had one final hard-hitting question before we wrap this up, Jason. For those of you that don't know, Jason is an incredibly talented miniature painter. And if you ever watch him on stream, you'll see how quickly he can paint something to a level that's really impressive, and it's his understanding of light and volumes is something great to learn from, which is why I think your stream has been successful over the years. But Jason, you don't paint competitively. You don't enter painting competitions. Your skill level is more than worthy of that. But why? Why do you just don't want to lose, or?
No, as a matter of fact, the last time I did painting competitions, I won a Golden Demon and a Forge World Best of Show.
Wow!
But that was 2005. And I'm like, since then, I think that for me, I've judged a lot more than I've entered.
Mm-hmm.
I get asked to judge quite often in like regional events or at shows and things like that. And I think what I found the most is that I don't like the idea of most painting competitions because of the disparity in models and the subjectiveness of the models and what's the flavor of the month. Mm-hmm. To discover who the best painter is in any given situation, I think you need to do it in a more homogenized system where you all paint the same model and you see the style and the textures and the volumes evolve, so that I can really say, hey, Scott and Jon did this, Scott didn't do this, but Scott did this and Jon didn't do this, and people as both the viewer and the painters get more out of that. So I know that's not as fun for the viewers to walk through a bunch of cases of the exact same model 50 times, but until there's painting competitions like that, I'm not really as interested in them. Because, Joaquin, and not to pick on Joaquin, but like Joaquin Palacios or whoever the great sculptor that did this sculpt, that's a one-off model that sits in a case, and it's like, oh, good God, that's amazing. And so the amazement is going to help drive the beauty of the piece.
Yes.
And so I don't like one-off pieces. I don't like grandiose stuff where not everybody gets an opportunity to do the same thing. This is an argumentative point because a lot of people argue with me that that's part of the art form. And I get it. For that competition, maybe that's the case. But I think that if you really want to have a painting competition, it has to start from a level playing field where everybody gets the same substrate to paint and shows off. Because then I can really have an objective view of what the criteria was, and color usage and all of that. And people would be able to look and say, oh, I see what this guy did that this guy didn't, or vice versa. Yeah. And I think that works a lot better.
Yeah. I think we should listen to Jason because his eye as a judge is obviously impeccable. And this has nothing to do with the fact that he judged when I won first place in a competition a number of years ago. So
Sam was really bummed with me on that one too.
And I'll never let Sam Lenz live that down. I just always hang it over his head that on this day, there are many days that you're better than me.
It could have been either one of you.
Yes,
it could have been either one of you. On any given Sunday.
Just to be on one day to be in the same category as Sam, I consider to be a highlight of my painting career thus far.
Your piece was fantastic. You paint great. Both of you guys are great. Looking at Scott's stuff in the case is amazing. His tabletop stuff is fun. It's like to have that kind of contrast and volume on an army that you're just putting out on the table to play is perfect. That's the way that's my form of the hobby. That should be the art form. I want to go, ooh, when I see an army on the table.
You don't have to say that.
Go to Vince's house.
You don't have to say that.
Vince's stuff is great.
You don't have to say that. He's just being nice now.
Well, I'm going to go cry. Just kidding. We're going to get into the after party. So, Jason, thank you for being here. We're going to now get into the extended portion of the podcast. Welcome to the end of the podcast. Jason, thank you again for being here. We just had a crazy after party. Jason got naked and was running around and
fruit involved.
Screaming.
Yeah, we had a fruit tray.
Yeah. So
Very
give us
weird.
$5 and you can see that super
not my
incriminating
contract,
evidence.
Jason makes 75 cents each new patron.
I was expecting bigger tips.
But also he had to pay for the fruit tray, so we gotta pay this.
Damn it, really? That was why you asked for my credit card? You bastard.
Yeah. And also, before we wrap everything up for real here, Jason is firmly against eating the paint. If you've seen any of the advertisements of Monument Hobbies,
Don't eat the paint.
They apparently they like puppets and they like not eating the paint. That's what we've learned from the marketing of Monument Hobbies
Don
lately.
Mahogany would be very offended if he heard you talk about him being a puppet. He's a real person.
Oh, really?
He sits in my office all day and stares at me.
Oh,
That sounds...
who has their hand up his butt? Because if he's not a puppet, that means that there is a real human
Speechless.
sticking their hand up another human's beehole.
Is that you're doing?
I feel uncomfortable.
I bet Don feels even more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Actually, Christopher, our DP, is the guy that does the puppeteering.
Okay.
Wait, you just admitted.
Yeah.
You just admitted he's not a real human.
guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
There it is.
I'm all about the truth.
Okay.
There's some great. There's a lot of things that I admire about Monument Hobbies, but one of the things are their goddamn commercials because you don't have to like put in the effort, the creative thought, the funny skits, the way that you kind of keep things fresh and make it fun while kind of putting your name and face out there. And I can tell that you guys have a lot of fun.
We hate ads, so only make ads we want to watch. That's our goal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, I'd said it before on the podcast, but there's a line that is delivered in your Christmas ad, and where they're dressed up as mice, right? And it says not a creature was stirring,
Not even a mouse.
not even a mouse.
We're literally stirring here.
Yeah, and I don't know what accent that little baby Jay was using there, but it sounds like he's speaking through his nose.
Yeah.
He just says one line, and I just lost my mind laughing. Like, yeah, and I'm just
We're literally stirring.
Yeah.
And he's like slurring it.
Yeah.
And he's got that stupid mouse nose on.
Yeah. So it's
I
like,
think one of the most fun things we do is buy cheap ass costumes on Amazon for our commercials. It's like, ooh, look, $5, we get mouse ears. We'll use those.
yeah.
Wow. It's stupid. We have so much fun.
I'm glad that I could mention that to you because I enjoy the commercials every time.
A lot of people do. Yeah.
Jordan will get a kick out of that.
They're awesome. They're awesome.
Thanks, guys.
You guys,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. If you guys enjoyed the podcast and want to support it, there are a number of ways you can do that. You can check out our Patreon where we do an extended episode. It's about 20 minutes, 30 minutes longer of extra content for you to fill your ears and brain with. You can also watch the podcast on YouTube, whitelisted. We play an ad about every 30 minutes. That's a free way to support the podcast. You can check out our merch link down below at Teespring. We have hoodies, we got sweaters, we got joggers, we got cups. We got G-strings with Jason's face on them. We don't have that, but that's coming soon. That's a collaborative project for Monument and Tup.
I did not read the contract correctly.
You can also share our podcast with your nerd friends, your mom, your dog. We don't discriminate. Anyone can listen to the podcast. John's farts appeal to everybody. But until then, I think we're about to head out. Get some tendies, maybe.
Yeah, we're going to go get some food, and then we'll be back in 2 weeks with another new episode. And you can use up that 2-week time to check out the Monument Hobbies stream on Twitch. Check out their store. We got the links down below, and you can see where they have their locations in your area and all the funky stuff like the noosh, like the wash and glaze medium, like the go bags, like
Fluo paints,
like the Ninjon Signature Series paint set. And until then, we'll catch you on the
Flippity flop.